I'm about to show you something that's going to change how you make every stirred cocktail. And it starts with this. Yup, a thermometer. If you temp your steak, you should be temping your cocktails too. I've got two identical martinis right here. Same ingredients, same proportions, equal weights of ice. The only difference, this one was shaken and this one was stirred. Now watch what happens when I strain these side by side. Look at that difference. The shaken martini is cloudy, the stirred one is crystal clear, but the differences go far beyond just appearance. The shaken martini has more volume. That's more water, which means there's more dilution. Now, dilution isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we'll get to that. Let's check the temperature. Shaken, 23 degrees. Stirred, 32 degrees. Different temperatures, different dilution levels. Ice can't chill a drink without melting, which means you can't have one without the other. Temperature and dilution are inextricably linked. That's why proper stirring matters so much. They give completely different taste experiences. The shaken one tastes thinner, sharper, but jumbled. The stirred version is stronger. I can taste the gin's botanicals. And the texture, it's richer. It almost has an oily, silky feel to it. This is a martini. James Bond might have asked for it shaken, but I think his barman knew better. Now we know that stirring matters, let's figure out exactly how long we should stir for. I held tastings where the team sampled martinis that were stirred for 15, 30, 45, 60, and 90 seconds. I also tracked the temperature and dilution of each sample. The 15-second martini was too harsh. There was an alcoholic burn with fewer subtle gin or vermouth flavours. As I progressed, the martinis opened up and became more balanced, until I got to the 90-second martini. This martini tasted watery and the flavours were less pronounced. The best one was stirred for 60 seconds. At 60 seconds, it reached 36% water content and dropped to 24 degrees. That was the sweet spot our panel of tasters preferred. Because chilling and dilution go hand in hand, I know that once the temperature drops below 25 degrees, I'll have the proper dilution. Now, you may wonder why use temperature rather than just time? Well, I noticed this a lot when we were developing the hundreds of recipes for our cocktail book, Cocktails Illustrated. Sometimes the same drinks would taste too harsh and sometimes too watery. And that was because people stir at different rates, leading to different dilutions and different final temperatures. What takes me a minute might take you 50 seconds or a minute and a half. And so here's your rule. Stir until your cocktail drops below 25 degrees and you know it'll be properly diluted and chilled. But wait, why would I want to dilute my drink? Well, adding water to a martini opens it up, and this effect applies to all spirits, even ones taken neat. This is why people have their whiskey on the rocks and why whiskey nerds add a few drops of water to their whiskey. It helps release the spirit's volatile aromas so you can actually taste the subtle flavours instead of just the burn. Try this experiment at home. Pour yourself 2 glasses of bourbon, add a splash of water to one, and compare the experiences. The one with added water should be a smoother sip with more robust aromas of smoke and caramel and butter. This also works with a good sipping tequila or rum. The same principle applies to cocktails. Dilution is actually a good thing because it opens up all those complex flavours. I want to take a second to thank Teak House for sponsoring this series. Their cutting boards are attractive, eco-friendly, and nice to work on. In fact, this extra large cutting board is a perennial winner in our reviews team's testings. It rates highly whether we're looking at ease of use, durability, stability, or maintenance. If you use the proper stirring technique, you should get my ideal 60-second martini. Add 2 ounces of gin and a ½ ounce of dry vermouth to a mixing glass and fill with ice. Most bar spoons look like this, with a long handle, a weighted end so it stays balanced, and a diagonal channel running down it. Loosely grasp the stem of the spoon between thumb, index finger and middle finger, like you'd hold a pencil or chopstick. Insert the bar spoon into the mixing glass with the outer curved side positioned against the wall of the glass. Then pivot the wrist and guide the spoon around, keeping contact with the glass. The groove running down the handle allows for a much better grip. Smooth ones tend to be slippery. Keep it smooth and steady. All that ice keeps the spoon pressed against the wall of the glass. The less agitation, the clearer your end drink will be. If you want, you can even stir with a thermometer. Even though I'm using a martini to demonstrate this, these stirring principles apply to all stirred cocktails. Your Negronis, Manhattans, Old Fashions. The only adjustment, if you're serving on the rocks, stir for just 30 seconds instead of a full minute, since the ice in the glass will continue the dilution and chilling process. Perfect, below 25 degrees. Now I'll strain this into a chilled cocktail glass. Chilled is definitely better. It really does make a difference. Pouring a martini into a room temperature glass will raise its temp by 4 to 5 degrees. You can put your glasses in the fridge if you don't have space in the freezer. Garnish with a lemon twist, or olives, or both. It's really interesting how each one transforms the whole profile. Salty olives reinforce the vermouth's savoury aromatics. And the expressed oils from the lemon peel add the perception of sweetness. My personal favourite is the Castelvetrano olive. Super savoury, not too acidic or salty, and tends to have firmer flesh. It's definitely the beginner's olive. Now that you've mastered the technique, let's talk about all the different ways you can tailor your martinis to your liking. You might prefer a particularly strong martini that's only stirred to 28 degrees, or a super cold, crisper version that's stirred to 22 degrees. Once you know your preference, you can figure out how long you need to stir for so you can recreate the same drink every time, even when you don't have a thermometer. When you order a martini, the bartender might ask how you like it, dry or wet. Confusingly, this is actually to do with how much dry vermouth is in it. The more vermouth, the wetter the martini. The less dry vermouth, the drier the martini. A wet martini is typically 2 parts gin to 1 part vermouth. The 80K martini is 4 parts gin to 1 vermouth. And an extra dry martini has just a dash of vermouth, if any at all. It was in the 1920s that Harry Craddock of the Savoy in London popularised the dry martini. His recipe was equal parts gin and dry vermouth, with some citrus bitters. Oh, and he shook it too, but never mind. That's an incredibly wet martini by today's standards, and nowadays is actually called a 50-50 martini. For the salt hounds, you can make a dirty martini by adding up to an ounce of olive brine, or try the Dan Souza Special, the dirtiest martini, and add a pinch of MSG for extra umami. Same technique, endless permutations, but definitely still martinis. So remember, temp your cocktails to calibrate exactly how you like them, because temperature and dilution are linked. If you make yours to 25 degrees or below, you'll be making professional quality drinks at home. Trust me, it makes all the difference. If you like this episode, you will love our new book, Cocktails Illustrated. It's packed with hundreds of recipes, cocktail science, and explanations like these.